you're ready to go.
Okay, nice. So let's start. It's 12 o'clock. So this session is about Azure Monitor for platform services. Uh, there's a wordplay here. Where is the AI and how do I arm it? There's a lot of AI provided service capabilities for the monitoring, but we want to control it with ARM templates. You can see there's some sponsors for this event. Big thank you to them. Big thank you to Drago for arranging it and everyone involved. So let's continue. My name is Michael. I'm a cloud engineer and infrastructure manager at Avana, Denmark, but I live in Sweden. I'm a Microsoft Azure MVP, and I run a meetup in Skåne. Skåne is the southern part of Sweden, called Azure, and the meetup is called Azure Skåne. You can find me on Twitter, and I have a fairly inactive blog, but sometimes there's stuff happening there. Just quickly, since this is a bigger audience than we usually have in our meetup, since we went online, we have been joined by people across the world. So Azure Skåne, it's part of Skåne is the small red one here in the southern part of Sweden, and it's close to Denmark. Some things Skåne is famous for. We have a building called Turning Torso. Yeah, there was a lot of buzz about that a couple of 15 years ago, I think it is. There's a really nice bridge, and as you can see at the top of the picture, it goes underwater before we end up in Denmark. So this is the bridge I usually cross when it was allowed before, when I went to work. Now in the pandemic times, it was lit up in solidarity because everyone is going through this together. Skåne is also famous for the self-proclaimed best soccer player in the world, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and Absolut Vodka. It's produced and made here in southern part of Sweden, in Åhus. It's part of Skåne. But you have to go to the States to buy it cheaper than you can do to buy it here. And then there's a Microsoft Azure data center being built here in Staffanstorp. Actually, it should have the new logo. So for me, that's what Skåne is famous for. So let's go over to the discussion about the monitoring though. So one crucial part of the monitoring, of course, is the Azure Monitor. It's the single pane of glass for all monitoring. And maybe today you can still find some components that are not really related to Azure Monitor, but still has some monitoring capabilities. Everything will be brought in under the same umbrella under Azure Monitor. And that actually happened with Application Insights some time ago, because Application Insights was a standalone service, but it was brought in under the umbrella of Azure Monitor. And you can see that all of the sources providing data and metrics, logs and metrics, they can push data into Azure Monitor, and Azure Monitor will do a lot of cool stuff with it. For our purposes, we focus on the Application Insights part. That's the scope of this session. And we will also touch some on the alerting here. But Application Insights is a really powerful, cool tool. As you can see, they have a really old logo. This picture is stolen from the docs pages. And I opened a GitHub issue, and they said that it's already being worked on. So it will be fixed. You can see there's some small boxes here mentioned with AI, and we will discuss those also. So that is the services we will look at. It's the Azure Monitor, the Application Insights, and then we will do ARM templating with this, or Bicep eventually. But first, I want to frame a problem statement, because this is what I faced. When you do agile development, the developers, they will spin up solutions in platform services, and they will do it continuously. So you will have log and metrics everywhere. Eventually, the developers will, let's say, hand over to operations in a DevOps way. Operations is, yeah, it should be mixed, but in reality, everyone is not there yet. And that means that monitoring and alert handling is a post-development request. So now we have developed this solution. We should do some monitoring, and if something happens, someone should do something. And that request usually comes afterwards. Uh, and then the developers say there's a lot of application insights spun up, so you can use those to monitor it and then create alerts on it. But what happens also is there's a lot of automatic alerting enabled when you spin up an application insights. And all of a sudden, subscription owners or people with specific roles added to them started getting mails, and then the question is, well, who should handle these alerts? And because I got this mail, should I have ownership? So now we're gonna do some demoing then, just to frame the setup. So here I gonna create we create everything in the portal now because it's a good demoing tool. So uh, just gonna make it a little bit bigger so everyone sees. So I'm doing this resource group now just because we gonna create a function. So in this case, we are a developer creating a function. Uh, I don't use tags in this case because it's just for demoing purpose. So now we have this CloudEight resource group here. As you can see, it's totally empty, even if I show the hidden types. As a developer, I would have a resource group or I would request some services, depending on where you are. In our case, we're going to create a function. And I'm going to go through this because this will, show uh, show where the application insights is added. So I create this function app called CloudEight Demo. Let's. It's just for you to showcase here. And then you have some hosting. It says, yeah, we're going to create a storage account for you, and that's fine. The operating system, you can choose the consumption level, but that's not the point here. The point here is the monitoring. So me as a developer, if I would be a developer, I'm not that bright, but if I would be a developer, I would, of course, read whatever stated here, and it sounds really great. And of course, I want to have application insights enabled so I can have this application performance management. And it's a really, really powerful tool for a developer to dig into it, and we will look at it also. But yes, I want to enable the application insights, and I can, in this case, I can connect it to an existing one, or I will create a new one. And usually I would create a new one before, because if I look at this list and I would create a new one, it would probably not make sense. And you should actually not be able to just drop your application in random application insights instances. But anyway, let's create this one, and then we'll let this one run for a while, and that's what I created the function. If I then would, while this is running, I'm gonna go to monitor, and then I'm gonna look at my application insights instances. You can see I have a couple of them. Um, and just to showcase how it looks like. So this application insights, I'm going to show what it's looking at. Here I have some storage accounts, some service plans, etc., and a function app. And I have one application insights instance related to all of these services. And if I would look in this application insights place, I would have some metrics. Actually, I'm gonna switch application insights instance because I don't have anything there. I prepared one here, any data. So here we could see that for the past 6 hours there's been some activity, uh, and this is really nice. We have something called an application map. So if my function would be connected to some Cosmos or some SQL, etc., uh, it would showcase here with the connections. And if any of those connections would fail, you would also be able to drill down to the message here. Uh, so I will showcase more about the application insights, but I just wanted to showcase what we will be creating now in our resource group. So if I would go back to the resource group that we just and manually by hand by clicking, which is not the preferred way, you can see that now I have a function app, an application insights, storage account, and app service plan, all according plans. If I click on show hidden types, it's empty. And the show hidden types is something that is kind of the key message of the presentation. So that's what I want to highlight this one. Uh, if I then go to monitor, so this is the Azure Monitor, then this is where all the monitoring happens for you. You would create these alert rules and you would have these action groups. So firstly, I'm gonna show the action groups. So I have a couple of action groups here, none that is kind of related to this cloud setup, CloudEight setup. I don't have too many action groups, so it's easy to follow. But I have one called Application Insights Smart Detection. And that is something that you probably need to remember. Well, I will come back to why you need to remember it. And it's residing in a resource group custom vision lab. And this is an old solution I had, but the action group is something that we should remember going forward. And then let's look at the alert rules. So the alert rules I have multiple of, and that's probably normal because if you want to monitor something, let's say exception or a high request or um, a CPU spike or anything, you're gonna have alerts for that. So I was gonna show that we don't have too many cloud failure anomalies alerts here. Okay. So that's just setting the scene, and then I'll continue with the presentation here. So we know what we have deployed so far. So now I'm going to talk about the monitoring. Then usually in a IT operation setup we have reactive monitoring. It's just when something happens, a disk runs full or a service has dropped. That's if we look at virtual machines. That usually is some trigger points. It could also be that websites doesn't respond, or we have some ping alerting. But usually that happens. If that happens, an alert triggers a message. It usually goes to the first line. If they don't solve it, they send it to second line. Eventually, it comes to third line, and then it has to be solved eventually, and that's someone's responsibility down the line. So this is a reactive monitoring part, and that happens when something already has been broken. And if we then look at proactive monitoring, and this is the whole concept of AI ops, you can read up about that. I think Mark Rusinovich pushed that last Ignite. But in application insights, we have these machine learning driven anomalies alerts that's automatically enabled for you. it looks at differences in messages or performance or security stuff that doesn't look as it should, and it alerts us. Nothing is broken. The application is still running as it should, but we get a message. Something is off. Please go look at it. This message we don't have to send to first line. We can send it, to a focus group or something else. And the key message here is that nothing is broken, everything is running fine, but you have something that you should look at that could eventually be wrong. And I mean that's cool that it's already provided out of the box, and you don't have to set that up. So now I'm gonna showcase a little bit deeper about the application insights, the capabilities around it, and we're gonna look at the application dashboard, the application map, some live metrics, uh, maybe transaction search. I'm gonna showcase the failures, and then we're gonna dig into the AI-driven stuff with smart detection, and then I have a joker with the create work item, and actually I should have let it be like that, and so let's go into the application insights then. And in this case, I'm gonna use an application insights that I have had for the demo purposes for some time now. And here you can see I already have some requests. I mentioned the application dashboard. So out of the box, if you connect your applications, usually there will be a request from someone. Okay, can we have a dashboard to look at, for our application? And then that's provided out of the box. If I click on this dashboard here, this will be generated. Once you click on that button, this dashboard will be generated for you. And it has all of the meat that you need. You have some usage metrics. It goes down like this. You have some reliability metrics, responsiveness, and browser metrics. And browser, that it's if you can add uh, in your application, you can add code so it would send more data to your application insights. I have the links to my map. I have some live stream capabilities, and then we have the smart detection that we will come back to. Okay, so that's the dashboard, and this is a nice feature just out of the box. If you have a really crucial app and you have a team that should be looking at it. The application map I already mentioned. Here I only have one function that runs for itself, but if that would be connected to something else like another function or a SQL or a Cosmos or something else, you would have that map lined out, and it would tell you how many calls goes back and forth, and if you have 100 calls going to your SQL and 5 of them are wrong, it would highlight that in the connection, and you could dig into the messages. So application map is also something that's really good, and you would probably use the application insights capabilities to just dig into the troubleshooting of your service. The live metrics, if I go into the live metrics here, uh, this is also a really powerful capability. If you have an application that's running high, and you want to see like live what's happening. Uh, Now this one is just doing nothing, but I have some setups here that I will call this function, and you can see as soon as I'm starting calling this function, I get a sample telemetry showcased here. If I would have any exceptions, that would also be thrown up here. So you have a live metric telling you how your application is performing uh, within this, and that's a really powerful thing also. Then the transaction search, I will skip that one. The failures. So the failures, if like I said, if I would have any exceptions, you can see if I look now the last 24 hours, let's take the last 7 days then, I get a list of stuff that's gone wrong. And you can see I have 500 response codes. I have some RCP exceptions, etc. That this information will make total sense for any developers, but maybe not so much for me as an IT operations person. But now I know that this tool exists, so I could provide that as a in for the developers to look at it. Or if you would have a first line, they would probably, there's something wrong, go into application insights and look at it. And if I look at the RCP's exception, for example, you can see out of all my 10 counts, I have a list here. It suggests, look at this one. So there's some AI there telling you, okay, this is probably the message that would give you the most value to investigate out of these all exceptions that you have here. So if I just look at this message, I could, get a full statement. It says something here about parsing errors, unexpected token, expression statement. So something is wrong. Okay. If I look at this and I think, okay, this is the meat that the developer needs to actually take action and correct the problem, um, I will actually showcase that now. This is where I could create a work item. This work item is connected to Azure DevOps. You have capabilities to connect it to Azure DevOps or to GitHub. In this case, I connected it to GitHub, but I could create a new template for it. But I have already connected it to GitHub, so I will create a GitHub work item and I will create an issue for this. And you can see, in this case, it's connected to presentations, but in that case, it will be connected to the project that you would have up. Now it says undefined. Let's try again. I think this connection is a bit. Oh, it says undefined. I might have not clicked on the correct message here. Let's say like this. I chose an RCP. Let's take another. It is the same message all over the place. So I had it should bring more information, but we can look at. Uh, I have some closed issues. So, I would get an issue like this with all the information, and if I click on this, it will drill down to the actual end-to-end message, and that's also, really nice for a ticket if you would send that forward. So here I have all of the meat, so I don't have to do the digging myself if the first line would already have done it. So that's nice. So now we're going to look at the smart detection part of application insights. And in this case, I would go to the CloudEight. uh, the demo one we created. So there's this investigate something called smart detection. And the smart detection here is it would look at certain rules it has. Now I don't have any data here, and I actually have had troubles mimicking something that I could showcase here. So you have to take my word for it. I can show the production environment, but you have some predefined detection rules. As you can see, some of them are in preview, and there's some changes there. But you have slow page load time, slow response time, long dependency duration, etc. And if I would just tell you what that means, now I did something wrong. Let's look at this. Um, so smart detection looks at different cases. Sorry, like slow load page time. And these are predefined rules that you can't do anything about it. It's already enabled within the application insight, so it does this automatically. And this is where the problem starts for you. So if application insights would detect a slow page load time, depending on their algorithm, it would send an email to subscriptions that are or to people that have the monitoring contributor or monitoring reader role enabled. So if I would have that, I would be getting a lot of messages about, okay, you have slow response time on this and that application just by having these roles. And that's automatically enabled. I don't control that out of the box. I have to know about it. So all of these rules would do that also. But you can see also I have the possibility to add an additional email here, and that's nice. But I don't want to go into every application insights I have, and per rule put in my email address. And also these preview ones, they don't have that capability. So they are only sending to you to the roles that you have. Good. So that's what we looked at. That's the application insights. So just some quick general recommendations about like the general high level setups. You should have one application insights per application, and it should be workspace based. I will show what that means. Uh, on the log analytics workspaces, because if your application insight should be workspace based, you have to have an log analytics workspace. The general recommendation, and you can look that up on the enterprise scale landing zone narrative that Microsoft has. There's some design decision recommendations there about how many log analytic workspaces you need. The quick recommendation is as few as possible, but as many as you need, and they could be depending on rights, security levels that you need to differentiate that. And general recommendation is that use the proactive built-in automatically enabled AI-driven tools. Use them because they are there, so you could have that information. So don't disregard it. Make it work for you. And now for the rest of this session, I will go into those AI-driven stuff. I showed you the smart detections. The smart detections are actually a three-part thing. You have something called smart detection in the application insights. That's smart detection. The thing that I showed you with the list of rules, that's called smart detection rules. But you have something else, and we'll come back to that because we deployed a function earlier out of the blue with nothing pre worked, and hopefully everything has worked now. So these failure anomalies, performance anomalies have been created for us while we've done this presentation. But the smart detection rules, they are already enabled for you if you have the roles uh, monitoring and monitor contributor and monitoring reader. The last part here we'll skip for this session, actually. Uh, so app insights plus monitor. We're gonna go back to that now, and I will walk through the smart detect setup, the failure anomalies, and the alert groups. So now, if we go back to our deployment that we did before in this CloudEight, if you recall, if I click show hidden types here now, I should have some more stuff there, hopefully. Yes, you can see I have an alert smart detector alert group rule. This was added automatically. I have not done this yet. We can click here on deployments to actually check what happened. You can see that after a while, 10 minutes later, it did this failure anomalous alert rule. I have some policies in my subscription that kicks in after a while, but this one was deployed, and if we look at the template, you can see what it did. It created this failure anomalies, and what it tells us is that it notifies me if unusual rise or rate of failed HTTP requests or dependency calls happens in my application. So that's nice. Just to mention the policy that I enabled here, there's on platform services, one of the biggest issues with, well, down, let's say, things that you miss with platform services is the possibility to close off all public endpoints. So you will have to do some work on securing all of that stuff if you don't want to put it in a network and cut off all the benefits of a platform service. So one of them is we want to disable FTP because we don't want to use that in our solution. So this is a policy that enables that. That was a sidetrack, sorry. Okay, so now we have the application insights, and you could see it created an additional rule. If I then go into monitor, let's see what happened here. So now automatically application insights have created a CloudEight demo failure anomalies alert. If we look at this alert, it tells us I have a condition on failure anomalies detected. If you're familiar with setting up alerts here, you know that you can manipulate these conditions. Here, I cannot because it's already set for me. We could probably highlight it a little bit, but it says the same. If an abnormal rise in HTTP request or dependency call happen, this rule will trigger. That's the condition of this one. Okay, so if that triggers, what happens then, though? Then, yeah, it will enable this action group. And you recall I showed that in the beginning. This action group is already created, uh, and there is a gotcha there, and I explain why. If I go back to the alert rule, you notice that it created an alert, but it didn't create an action group because it connected it to an existing action group already. And you can see the name is very specific here. So if you have applications in your subscription that or application insights in your subscription, you already seen this because that's created automatically and set up, the whole flow. So and the smart detect, we looked at that already. So now I'm gonna go forward. So what happens then if I create a lot of functions or applications and create these application insights instances, it will automatically create a lot of alert rules, but it will connect it to the application insights smart detection action group. This one is created if you have a fresh subscription and you create an application insights. This action group will be created. Every following application insights instance that you create will use the same action group. What happens then if okay, this was my demo proof of concept application. We don't need it anymore. I delete the resource group. It will then delete this action group also. The automatic setup that this one has will break the chain for all following applications in that case. If we look at the application insight smart detection in this case, you can see that the notification is sent to the monitoring contributor, monitoring reader. So an email will be sent to these roles. But if this action group doesn't exist, it doesn't matter if these alert rules exist because, the message doesn't go forward. So that's the smart detection rules you saw. And what happens then if I would Let's take our CloudEight demo. These smart detections then. If I would want to add my email here, that would be nice. But this is a completely standalone setup. All of these alerts here. So I would have to go in and set my email on each and one of these if I don't have the role. And if you look at an operation setup, like you would have a group of people, a network operations center or an IT ops center that handles the alerts. Each and one of those persons wouldn't have to would probably not have the role of a monitoring reader or monitoring contributor. So in that case, you would have to add some kind of a operations email or something in each one of these, and that's also tedious. But that means that the setup would be for each application insights instance, I would have to set this smart detect rule email, and that means that it would then be connected directly to the operations team for each and one of these. So you see, it's not a coherent setup. You have these automatically enabled stuff all over the place. It feels like. So the quick fix would basically be just add the monitoring reader or monitoring contributor to the person that needs it, should look at the alerts, and you could lean back and just have everything under control. But then if you would have deleted this application insights smart detection resource group, the communication would have failed. Uh, then there's another thing there with automatic app crash that uses the service admin, account admin, and owner. So it's it's another thing that's not connected to this one. So, but they also has a lot of AI driven monitoring. So the quick fix it would be, if you have monitoring reader or monitoring contributor, you're set basically, because everything will just fall in place in the place by itself. But from a enterprise level setup, this needs to be controlled, because if it's automatically enabled, everyone is confused. Why am I getting this email, or is there any email sent anywhere? It breaks the naming convention. You probably have a naming convention for your alerting setup, uh, your production, development, test, and so on, with the application name or even or similar. You wouldn't want to have it called failure anomalies uh, and just the application name. And since it's automatically enabled, it's not part of your process where you have set up the flow with first, second line, or whatever setup you have, because it just happens and you don't control it. So that's why we have ARM templates, and that's ARM templates to the rescue. So I'm just gonna showcase. Wasn't meant to go there. So now we have these resource groups: CloudEight with an 8, CloudEight, and CloudChat. So if I would then create an ARM template, in this case, this ARM template, what it does, just 1 second, of course, there. What it does, it creates the application insights instance. And yeah, there's a type general. We don't have to discuss that, but it's a specific thing. So this ARM template, it creates the application insights instance, because you can have application insights instances created and then hook applications to it with the instance key. I will show that just quickly. So let's say I have this one running, and then I wanna connect an application to it, I can use these instrumentation keys and have it in my SDKs or whatever. You can connect multiple applications to the application insights instance. So that's where you connect it. So this template, it creates this application insights instance. It adds an email to all the smart detect rules, not the preview ones because it doesn't support email. We create the action group and we add the monitoring reader and contributor plus an email that we define. We can, that's just the action group. You can build that with webhooks or ITSM connections, etc. And then we create the failure anomalies alert and connect it to an action group, to this action group. And so here we kind of have everything in one package and we control all of it. So here you can see that I have the slow page load time, that's the smart alert. I have the slow response time, smart alert. And I have the parameter with the name and the email address, so all of them will be populated. Then I have the action group, and you can see I have the monitoring contributor. These one are actually the same for all cloud. I think Azure cloud, not like government cloud. I think they might have different, but these are predefined, so you can add those. And then I also have an email that I provide. And then we create the smart detector alert rule. Now we can say failure anomalies, and you will see it when we deploy it. So this one creates all of that in one. So now we control the setup, right? Yeah, CloudEight AI. Let's do it like this. So it usually goes really quick. We can throw a ball to a kitten. Okay. Because it does not exist. I did something wrong. Oh, did I do it wrong with the resource group name? Yes. Um, probably was working anyway. So I have this CloudEight resource group, and let's see if I was able to create. I was not, and it actually is it complaining on this one? I was running this earlier. Oh, of course, of course. I was actually had to restart my computer before, so I wasn't in the right folder. So now we're deploying it. Sorry for that. And it doesn't take long at all. So we have still 2 minutes to go. So now everything is created, and we can see that the application insights is CloudEight AI for application insights. I have an action group. I have it's a short name for it, and the email. So if we refresh this one, we can see that we have the application insights. I also have the action group, and I have the failure anomalies alert. So now I have everything combined and I control it. I control the naming of it and the relation of it. So if I would go back to monitor and look at the alerts, see that I have created this one, and you can see the I just took out the spaces so you can see that you can control the naming. But we created this CloudEight AI, and if we look at the condition of that alert, you can see we actually use the AI driven one, and the action group. We define the action group, the naming of it, and we also have the monitoring contributor and reader added, plus our own email added to it. And when you do that, you also get a message that now you have been added to this action group. You've been added to monitoring action group, CloudEight, and so on. The messages that you receive from these automatic alerting, the smart detector rules, etc., they have the similar structure, but with a link directly to the application insights end-to-end message. So that's the setup, and that was kind of what I want to go through. 1 minute over. Uh, I did a blog post about this for in December, so maybe there's some changes to it, but there's details about all of the stuff that I talked about. Also links to the templates and so on. Links to the actual documentation, how if you wanna, go through it yourself. It's on the blog. You can reach me on Twitter if you have any questions also. And with that, I would want to say thank you. Thank you to Drago, to CloudEight, to the sponsors, and to you who have been joining me in this session. And if there's any questions, I can hang around some minutes. Let's see. No one has any questions, but thank you.